This is Kim and Josh with Haunt Talk. This is our first review for the 2014 season, and it is on 100 Acres Manor in Bethel Park, PA, which is a haunted house that was last year shown on the Travel Channel.
Yeah.
And that added to the line.
Yeah, we went, this was their second week being open, because the first time I tried to go there, I failed.
That's what happens when you try to go places without me.
Yeah, got caught in traffic, got there 15 minutes after the scheduled ticket time, and yeah, couldn't get in.
Well, this time, we weren't even planning on going to this place. We had this scheduled for later in the month. We tried to go to Cheeseman Fright Farm.
And they were closed, so...
Stupid us didn't check the date, so we drove there and then had to drive another hour after that to get here. But that's not the point, that's our bad.
They were scheduled anyways, they're just a little bit further ahead. I will say, I mean, I would assume a lot of it's from the Travel Channel, but this was their second weekend being open, so, you know, probably their third day of operation. Not sure if they're open Sundays or whatever, so that's probably wrong. But, my God, like, the line was really the longest line I've ever seen there, and just for that time,
well, we didn't,
it's kind of surprising.
Because of having to drive an hour from Cheeseman Fright Farm to get to here, it was probably 10:15 when we got there.
Yeah.
So the line was massive. However, I am amazed at how fast we got in.
Yeah.
It was probably an hour at the most of a line, which
say,
isn't bad at all.
When we only say massive, we're not talking like Cedar Point lines, but we're just talking like...
for haunted house lines,
it was pretty long, especially for their second weekend. It's not, I mean, that's far, still like a couple weeks till October. But I mean, again, the lines isn't really anything that we judge. It would have been nice to see more queue line actors. We're not going to include that in our score at all, but that would be nice if they had more entertainment.
Maybe two.
Also, I would like to see live bands there. I feel like they have enough space. It'd be cool if they had live bands.
One thing that I do appreciate about them with music, though, is they do have very good mood music.
They do.
They have a really good sound system set up around the place, so it gives... The music they play is a very haunted house appropriate.
Yeah, and the facade of the building is very pretty and it's lit really well. They use a lot of good lighting, but we'll get into that in a minute.
Yes.
So we might as well go ahead and I'll let you start into the review.
Okay, if you have seen our previous reviews, you know we break the haunted house down into categories.
Yes.
We go by actors, props, design, value, and then we finish with an overall score of the place. And our overall is not an average. It doesn't mean just because we gave, 4 7s and 1 8 that they're necessarily going to get a 7.
Yeah, it's more of a reviewer tilt. So if like we feel something that's special to us about it and we want to give a slightly higher review than the average or a slightly lower review than the average, we can do that because there are reviews.
But we will give a little brief description about each category as we do. And we'll start with actors. Within actors, we go a lot with their makeup. We go with how they stay in character, the lines they give, and just generally, how they act in the house.
Yeah.
And for this, we gave them a 7.
Yeah. The group, and this is the thing, I mean, with as busy as they were, and it's only going to get more busy, is they do tend to pump people through, which is the thing that a lot of haunted houses have problems with, and it's something that's kind of hard to combat when you're this kind of style of haunted house.
Because you don't want to be there till 7 in the morning trying to get groups of 5 people through.
The disappointing thing was there was a lot of actors, but we were kind of paired with a group of 5, but they were like 3 or 4 girls, or it was like 3 or 4 girls, I forget how many exactly were in a group. But they kept getting scared and stopping, so we pretty much lost them. I don't know what happened to them.
I think they just stopped at one point, because I heard them screaming in the distance.
Because we walk slow through haunted houses to see everything. Like, we examine things. But like the actors, they would see us and like they would just look at us and do nothing. It's kind of like, why? They didn't even try. And a lot of times we would just like see their obvious hiding spots.
Yeah. And I think the main problem with that was they were used to, the whole night being so busy, large groups getting pumped through. So they see 2 people come in and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go for the middle of this group because it's going to be a big group. And then it just ended up being us 2, and they were kind of probably caught off guard by that.
Yeah, I guess. But I would assume this is also something that happens because I know a lot of times people go fast or slow and you get separated. So, I mean, maybe they could have listened or there's a way they could have seen it better because it happened just an insane amount of times to us. Also, a couple break of characters that I will point out. There was one person walking back towards us that was dressed up and just said, "Excuse me," and just kind of brushed us aside. Be like, I don't know, maybe they're trying to go or something that kind of throws you out of the moment for a sec when an actor comes by and like, "Oh, excuse me."
Yeah. However, their makeup and costume design pretty much flawless.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
And the places were lit enough where you could see it. Like, they were, yeah, the costume design and makeup was really good.
Yeah. So, I mean, just a few things that were kind of about it.
Some really cheesy line of dialogue here and there. I mean, that's kind of a thing I guess you run into a lot.
Yeah.
Some places don't use it so much, but there's no story. I mean, I guess that's a lie. There is story based, but they kind of say really generic kind of like things to those stories.
Yeah.
But
we will move next to animatronics and props. We gave an 8. Yeah. They mostly rely on props, which is good for the themes of their houses. There were a few animatronics, but they didn't seem to quite be working right.
Yeah, and I don't exactly understand. I could tell a lot of the things were sensor switches. Mm-hmm. I could see them switching on and off. There's also puppets, though. But again, maybe they were waiting for something else. But I know there's a specific spot in the cave that has like a dragon, I think. Mm-hmm. Didn't activate for us.
Yeah.
No one.
The props that they used, though, were really good. They fit really well into the themes of the rooms.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, like I said, the animatronics, not very impressive. The props, though, the props were really good and they were well adjusted. Even like the body bag room was more impressive than like a body bag room usually would be. Mm-hmm. Would you consider like the water? Is that more? That was probably more design, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which is why they cut higher.
Yeah. Just we'll touch on that in a minute.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, the props and everything, they were done really well and they were placed properly. So I guess there's not much more to say about that.
Yes. So then we will move to design, which we gave an 8.5. Yeah. Which there's one thing that, if was different, would have got a 10 because this place is freaking beautiful inside.
Right. Which I think we'll save that for last to talk about.
Yes. We will first talk about how beautiful it is.
Yes.
There's a cave system that's so pretty.
Yeah, and it's one of my favorite things in all haunted houses.
Yeah.
It's just like this. I think it's built of plastic. It's not foam, but I mean, it looks and feels like a cave with like dripping water and has the sound of a cave going through there. Other years I've seen, and not this year, someone dressed up as just a rock and this rock runs at you, which is cool. That was missing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, the cave is really cool.
Mm-hmm. There's like water. I don't know what you call the system that runs it, whatever it is. There's like waterfalls everywhere. And...
Oh, well, that's more like outside of the cave.
Yeah.
But yeah, they had that turned up a lot this year. Usually they have like a spot. It's really cool. It's like a bridge with some water, but I mean the water like running right onto the bridge. Like you have to like walk around it. An actress in the water, which I imagine on cold nights that's not a thing they do.
Yeah, she's just walking around through the water.
All right, and then there's like a part where you kind of like go up around this ramp and through, and like the waterfalls are like beside you. And then one of the coolest parts right after that, you walk underneath this like plastic roof with like glowing. It's like a purple lit waterfall running over top of your head and falling down beside you.
Even without being scary, it's one of the most beautiful things in a haunted house that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really, the waterworks is really impressive. Mm-hmm. Just like the system they had to build for that.
Mm-hmm. And like we said, within props, everything in there is just really well placed and very clean looking.
Another thing to point out is definitely the lighting. Some of the most impressive lighting in a haunted house. No dark rooms except for the thing we'll talk about last. But everything is really well lit and it's different. Nothing feels like it lasts the same for too long.
Yeah.
It stays within its theme.
Mm-hmm. Everything flows really well together.
Right. They have really upped on using scent machines.
Oh my god, the entire place smelled like something.
Yeah, like they really like went with it and like some really just gross scents. I mean, some of them aren't so bad, but a lot of really gross.
There's a barn one where the entire thing just kind of smells like chicken poop.
Yeah, which is, you're walking in between all these cages of chicken, so I mean, it fits it, but it's just really gross.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of a cool thing though.
Yeah. So, the downfall.
Yeah.
Is the maze.
Yeah, and this is something that they advertise. I mean, and they're proud of it. I think at one point it really fit. And it's cool the way you enter the maze. It's actually really impressive. Like, you go from like being more of like this high-toned music, and you're going down this hallway with red throbbing light, and you start to hear a heartbeat. And as you're walking further down, the music fades, and all you hear is this, and then it kind of like exits you into a maze. I mean, the top's open, but it's just black walls.
Yeah. And that's what the entire maze is just black walls.
Right. Which, it could be okay. But the thing is, this is what they've done for a long time, and I think they change the maze a bit each year, maybe. I think they say they do. But the haunted house gets really busy, and the maze gets extremely, extremely congested. And every time I've been there, this has been the case. So I can bring it up and say that it wasn't just that night and people not knowing what they're doing, because usually we go later in the year. So it's not because they were open too early. We went too early.
Yeah.
But the actors have to help you get out. Like, the actors will just stand and point you which way to go. Which basically, it wasn't a maze for us. We just walked and walked in a black hallway until we got to the end, being directed. We got lost maybe like once or twice because we didn't see an actor. But besides that, it's just being clustered with people.
Yeah. And it's, with how impressive the rest of the house is, this maze is just kind of like...
Yeah. I feel like the haunt's outgrown it.
Yes. So they...
It's...
I don't want to say they should get rid of it and build another haunt in there. But if they're not going to up it more to match the impressiveness of the house...
Right. I would actually say I would like to see them, instead of upgrading anything next year, upgrading any of the haunts, to just tear down that maze and then make something there and build upon that. Because the maze really doesn't do anything. There's no real actors in there to try to scare you. It's just a black maze that you're pretty much told where to go in. Yeah. And I think that's a problem, and I think if it was something else was put in its place, it'd be much better. Even if it's shorter than that maze, it's something more spectacular. Yeah.
We will move to value. Within value, we take into consideration the cost and the length and that.
Yeah, the cost, the length. Yeah.
Pretty much just those. If the cost is worth it, like if you're paying $20 for 10 minutes, obviously not a good value.
Right, and also we also kind of try to combine a little bit of if the haunt was any good, but that's more for overall, but also we're not going to give it a really good value. If it's a 30-minute haunted house with nothing but black walls,
right,
that's not exactly good value. But
this was $18 and it was 30 minutes, which is, we gave it a 7.5.
Right, which, I mean, that's just, it's pretty average. $18 is a fairly high price, but 30 minutes is... actually, I would say that's slightly above average for a haunted house. It's a pretty big haunted house, and depending on the maze, you'll be there for longer or not, I guess.
Yeah, depends on how long you get lost and everything else.
Right, exactly, but I really don't know. That's more of just padding for the time length. If it wasn't for that maze, if it would have went right into the haunted house, probably would have been 20 to 25 minutes. Because we were just kind of like walking around in the maze for quite a amount of time. Yeah. So...
yeah, that's pretty much about it for value.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good value, but nothing super spectacular.
Yeah, overall we gave it a 7.5.
Right.
There were a few things that could have been improved, but as a whole, it is a really impressive haunted house. Yeah,
I mean, I would definitely recommend going to it if you're in the Pittsburgh area at all. I mean, we drive about close to 2 hours to get there. It's like an hour and 45 minutes, I think, to be exact, but with traffic, it's more like 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely worth going to.
And, like we said, with being featured on the Travel Channel, we would recommend going early.
Yeah, because to skip the line. The VIP tickets, I believe, are $25. That might be wrong. Oh, they also have zombie paintball. We're not going to do that for any place this year, and we're not going to rate the zombie paintball. Any of these added-on attractions, we're going for the haunts and the main haunts. If it's an actual haunted house you walk through, or a thing they really, like, you know... that they're really well known for, would do it, but something that's like the zombie paintball or like the
which is something that is done in a lot of places. So for us to include zombie paintball and all of them be like, yep, this is another place with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's fun. I think it's becoming a little bit overdone. Like I know, like the simulated coffin ride is the thing that people were doing, where you just lay in the coffin and it moves. Yeah. So. A
lot of these added-on things are just like, okay, well, what's another way to kill time while we're here?
Right. And I mean, they're trying to, while you're there, they're trying to get more money from you as they can, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I mean, we go for the haunts, and that's what we're there for, so. We said that pretty much does it. Our next review will be on Wells Township Haunted House, I believe. Yes, that'll be the next one that'll be up after this. And please make sure to check out the documentary, which, well, will either be online when you're watching this or soon after. And I'll provide a link to it in the description below if you're interested in the behind the scenes or anything haunted house wise. You watch that. Yeah. All right. See you next time. Thanks.
Thanks.
All right.